Here we go. Pressing record. Everyone's going to get the message. Okay, so ladies, I'm going to share my screen. Obviously, when I share screen, I can't see all of you. I can only see a couple of windows. So if you have something, a comment, please type it in the comments. What I would like to do throughout, I might stop and ask one or two questions. But if you have questions, make notes so that we can answer right at the end. There will be Q&A. Okay. But if you have comments along, please just type them in the chat. Okay. So it's recording and I'm going to share my screen. Okay, can everybody see that screen? Good, thanks, Cecile. Thanks. Okay, channel the chase. All right, this is a webinar that I've been wanting to do for a long time. It's basically putting together kind of the strategies and the things that I did over the years, particularly with Charlie and with Layla as well, to get to the point where we are today, where I feel very comfortable both on and off leash with my dogs in the forest. Are we perfect? No. Are my dogs perfect? No. But we sure are in a place where I feel really comfortable to be. So this is a little bit about my journey. So for those of you who know me, this is what I love to abide by, my philosophy. In a trusting relationship, you feel safe, you feel loved, you feel understood, appreciated, and accepted for who you are. And I think this is a big part of this talk tonight, is about accepting our dogs for who they are. So for those of you who don't know me, I know all of you do, but there might be people watching this recording who don't know me. My personal journey began with Charlie, and he was extremely driven to chase anything and everything. So from wildlife to bunnies, to cats, to joggers, to you name it, other dogs, whatever. He was always keen for the chase, and his behavior got him and I into a lot of trouble. We often had disputes over it. We had a breakdown in our relationship over it. It led to a lot of frustration, disappointments, overwhelm, and eventually me wanting to rehome him. But at the last minute, I decided against it, and I made a commitment to him to learn more and to do whatever I could to support him and for us to work through these behavior challenges that he had. His breed is he's a mixed breed. He came from a rescue center. On his record, it was predominantly Springer Spaniel. For those of you who know Springer Spaniels, they are flushing dogs, so they bred to flush birds, etc., for hunting. And he also has some Sighthound in him, and he also has Border Collie in him. So he has the traits of all of them: herding, hunting, you name it, he's got it. So anyway, I trained harder, I trained more often, I worked on his self-control, I worked on his focus, and I worked on a great recall, and I used his favorite toy as a distraction when we were on walks, which was his ball. And I turned him into a ball junkie. He was awesome when I had my ball in his hand. In fact, he never wanted to sniff on walks. All he wanted to do was, he was just watching me from the moment we walked out the door. He was watching me getting ready to throw the ball. And if I didn't throw the ball, he started pushing at me, jumping at me, getting really impatient, and it became quite an obnoxious behavior. So that was all he was wanting to do, was just to chase his ball. And then we moved to Austria, where there is an abundance of beautiful natural habitat on our doorstep, beautiful forests, lakes, and mountains. And we have lots of deer, lots of foxes, and lots of other wildlife in our forests. And walks were anything but fun again. They became a nightmare all over again. He was always on a long line, always pulling me wherever we went. He was always disconnected and over-aroused, always following scents. And so again, we were stuck. Where do we go from here? And my question was then, is more training the answer? Because we had trained so much already. And And yet here we were stuck all over again with the same kind of chasing behaviors that I couldn't keep under control. So this is where I started on a new journey, where I discovered there was more to what we really needed to look at. What was the fundamental needs underneath there that weren't being met by him and by myself in order for us to really start solving our problems. So we had to look at who is my dog, who is Charlie, who is he as an individual, and what about trust? Because at that stage, we certainly didn't have any trust, no mutual trust. I didn't trust him, he didn't trust me. And connection and cooperation, well, I thought we had that, and we certainly had that in some circumstances when we were doing training activities together, but certainly not in the times when I really needed it from him. And when he needed from me too, obviously. So who is our dog? Even if we have a sweet little puppy looking mixed breed on our lap, there are still genetics inside that dog. As we know, their ancestors are the wolf, and they share 99% genes, genetics of their DNA with the wolf. All right. So there's still a very strong lineage, their breed lines. If we look at their parents and their grandparents, if you know them, you may be able to tell what kind of, were they hunting dogs, or did they have, were they, bred for work or not? And what were their breed traits and temperament like? Because that's all going to filter down into your specific dog. And then we look at the relationship that we have. The relationship that we have with canines goes back over 30,000 years ago. In some books you'll read it's up to 40,000 years ago, where they first found sort of canine skeletons in the near of villages where humans lived, for instance. And then we have a working relationship going back to 15,000 years ago. So this is where unofficially we started as humans working together with them, either hunting with them, or they used to guard the villages, etc. And then the FCI, the Federation, I'm not going to say that because I can't speak French, was founded in 1911. And that's 110 years ago. And all of them, they grouped all the dogs, the then known breeds, into 10 categories. And all of our dogs come from these 10 categories, or fit into these 10 categories. So if we have a quick look at these categories, they are number one is the sheep dogs and cattle dogs. So those are your herding breeds. Then you've got your terriers. Oh, well, let's go to number two. Number two is your pinschers and your schnauzers, your Molassoids. And I don't know why, but they put the Swiss mountain dog and cattle dogs with them as well. We've got the terriers and the dachshunds, which are also hunting breeds. Terriers and dachshunds would be this, hunters for smaller prey. Terriers were often used to rat out cities and farms. The dachshunds were bred for fox hunting and badger hunting. And then you've got the Spitz and the primitive types, and these were more sort of guard dogs and also hunting dogs as well. They were sort of a general all-in-one good kind of breed to have. Then you've got the Centaurs, the pointing dogs, retrievers, Sighthounds, and then group 9 is your companion and toy dogs. Okay, so just as a, hands up, I can see some of you, hands up, who has a breed that has got hunting in them, some kind of a working dog breed in them. So everyone that I can see a hand up. Okay, you've got some kind of working dog breed in your dog. But you may say to me, well, I actually have a companion dog. I don't have any one of these. So I went onto a website and I had a look at companion dogs. This Dog Time website, I'm hoping it's going to link there, but I'm not sure. Let me just stop sharing, and I'm going to go to another link just to show you something. Okay, so I'm looking, can you see my screen? I'm at the Dog Time screen. You can see it? Good. Okay. So if we look at the little Shiba Inus fall into the companion dog category. All right. So I'm a little, I'm a person, because I have two at the moment. I have two clients with Shiba Inus at the moment. And very cute little puppies, but also, have a huge personality. But if I look at this Shiba Inu, if I was somebody looking for a Shiba Inu, and you look through the first characteristics and it says they adapts well to apartment, perfect. Apartment living, perfect. They're good for novice owners. Yes, perfect for me. Tolerates being alone. Yes, perfect for me. All of these things. And you think, wow, this little dog is perfect. Look at it all. Affectionate with family. It's great with dogs and kids. Health and grooming. All these sort of things. Easy to maintain. This is the dog for me. Then we go down to, yeah, it's easy to train, not so easy, but it's intelligent. So I must be able to work with this dog. And then we're looking at things like energy levels. Great, it's got a 4 energy level, but I love frisky little dogs. I love playing and doing things with my dog. Great. So we think, okay, this is a great little dog. And oh, sorry, there was something here about prey drive. There we go, prey drive. Gives him a 3. Okay, gives him a 3 for prey drive, which was quite interesting. But now if you were really interested and you started scrolling down here, you'll see things like like here, for instance, spirited dog. Where we go? Here, like a ninja warrior, the Shiba Inu moves quickly, nimbly, effortlessly, is keen and alert. These would be bells for me, but for the average person, they're not, okay? We see here, what does it say? The Shiba Inu has a fiery personality. Most Shibas cannot be trusted off leash because they are natural hunters and love to chase. There's a strong chance they will chase a squirrel, chipmunk, or cat, and he is generally suspicious of strangers. So at the end of the day, here's a little companion dog who's great for my apartment, but hey, he's still 99% wolf, and he's still got all this breeding in him and all this DNA in him that tells us he's a hunter. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing that and go back to my presentation. Okay, so does anybody, I know some of you are trainers on here, etc. Has anybody had this kind of experience where somebody says, I got the sweet little companion dog, I didn't think he was the furthest thing from a working dog, and yet he chases squirrels, cats, blah, 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 blah. So hands up, who knows of a non-working breed that still chases and goes crazy? Yes, there we go. Okay. So we know that there's naturally exceptions to every group. After all, they're all unique individuals, and there are factors that may influence their prey drive, as it were, which could include things like early socialization and development, their temperament, personality, environmental influences, and even gender and health status can have an influence on how intensely they use these desires, as it were. But we know that anything from a Chihuahua to a Newfoundland can and does display predatory behavior. Okay, so keep that in mind. All right, so what we know that all dogs come then pre-programmed with this hunting drive to either scavenge or hunt. And the sequence follows is a set genetic sequence. It happens once it's triggered in the brain. It's basically, you can't really stop it in such. You can with training, and we'll talk about that. But this is a pre-programmed program that runs in the brain. And it starts with your searching and your hunting. So they pick up on a scent or a track. They start searching. As soon as they get a bit closer, they're going to start orienting. So they're going to move their body towards a sound or the smell if they've caught an air scent, or they're going to look. If they're sighthound, they're going to be looking a lot more. They're going to be looking around and searching, where is that? I can smell it. I'm getting close. Now I need to orient towards it. Then you will see some dogs will do that, the stalking, where they really crouch low and start approaching stealthily through towards in the direction of the prey. And then depending on what they were bred for, either they flush out, so they love to chase and flush something out of the undergrowth, be it birds or deer or small animals. Or if it's something that, if they're really hunting dogs, then they're actually going to take chase and chase after it in order to catch it. Once they get it, they're going to grab it, they're going to kill it, they're going to dissect it, and they're going to eat it. Okay, this is all pre-programmed. And I will tell you that my sweet darling Layla Labrador, we're not talking about Charlie, the hunting dog here now. We're talking about Layla, a retriever. She supposedly, the retrievers have been with certain genetics, they supposedly bred out the last things. So they supposedly bred out the grab, kill, dissect, eat. And they just taught the retrievers to have a very soft mouth, to grab the prey and to bring it back to the hunter, bring it back to their person. That's what they are, retrievers, right? We retrieve the prey and we bring it back. Well, let me tell you, my sweet little retriever grabs, kills, dissects, and eats little creatures. All of them. So it's not, again, it's not to say just because you have a retriever and she doesn't do all those things. Yes, this is a pre-programmed sequence that every single dog has. Okay. So what else about this? It's fun and it's very, very, very rewarding for a dog. Why? Because hunting activates the seeking system. And the seeking system is one of the core emotional systems that was identified by Jacques Panksepp, he's passed away now, a neuroscientist, and he understood all these different emotional systems in the brain that trigger different emotional reactions and then behaviors that follow that. And the seeking system in particular helps animals to find resources. It's activated when they're seeking food or when they're seeking a mate or in anything to do with looking for, searching for, seeking for. And at the same time, the body releases things like dopamine, endorphins, cortisol, and testosterone. Why? Because dopamine activates the rewards center in the brain. And endorphins help us to not feel good, feel good. Endorphins help us to feel good. And the cortisol obviously raises your adrenaline, your heart starts going, because these are all the things you need to prepare yourself once the seeking has taken, once you've found your prey, now you need to chase it and catch it, okay, and eat it. So these are all things that are carrying on in the body, in the bloodstream. All of these hormones are now circulating once that system has been activated. And nature did this for a reason, because they wanted the animal, ourselves included, but they wanted particularly the seeking system of predators in order to find food. They had to make it finding food an exciting thing. They had to make finding a mate an exciting thing that they wanted to continue doing, keep seeking for. So this is why it's really fun and really rewarding. All of this is really good stuff for dogs, okay? So what happens when the dog doesn't have these innate abilities met, or they're prohibited from doing them? This is where we start to see trouble. This is where we start seeing bored dogs. We see dogs getting really frustrated. We see them with increased stress levels. And this is where we start seeing they start seeking outlets for this frustration and their boredom. And they do this generally through barking, chewing, chasing other little things that they're not allowed to, perhaps, digging. Wanderlust is one of them as well. So they start roaming more, and they just, these are the dogs who you let them off a leash and they're gone. They don't even want to come back. They're just on their own mission. And even things like OCD behaviors. So tail chasing, running up and down fences, all those kind of things also very often stem from not being able to express their innate abilities. Now, obviously, we know that there's lots of other factors that will be contributing to these as well, but these are prime examples of what can happen when a dog is bored and they're not using their innate abilities. And this is usually when the guardians run off to training and say, help, I need a solution. I need to help fix my dog's problem behavior. Please, can you help me stop it or fix it? And my question is it possible? And is it even ethical or fair? And to be honest, is it possible? Yes, there are certain training methods you can do to stop your dog's behavior. But most of you listening into this call, I know will also know that it's not about suppressing the behavior or stopping it or fixing it, because what happens, you only suppressing the emotions that are underneath that anyway, and they're going to come out somewhere else. It's going to happen somewhere else. Either that dog's going to come up with other behaviors or physical ailments, illness, disease, you name it. Okay, so yes, it is possible, but it's putting a lid on a pressure cooker, which I think is a dangerous thing to do. Is it ethical and fair? Well, in my own opinion, I don't think it's ethical or fair, because we have bred dogs for all these centuries to have this innate desire, this total need with every fiber of their being. And by telling them you can't do it, you can't do it, you can't do it, I think is cruel. But that's my personal opinion, but I think it's unfair and I think it's cruel. So what do we do instead? We can harness their natural talents and find ways to work with them instead of against them. Okay. So how do we meet their needs and harness their talents and start working together? For me, it starts with building trust and connection. So some of you may already have seen the trust triangle webinar that I did. So if I'm going to whiz through this one, if anybody wants to have access to this, please message me afterwards and I'll send you a link. So I'm just going to go through this quite quickly, but this is about the trust triangle. So for me, it's three-sided. We've got self-trust, that's trust in my own abilities. We've got my dog trusts me. Does my dog trust me to keep him safe? And do I trust my dog? Do I trust my dog in certain circumstances that he's not going to rush off and do things when I really need him not to do them? Okay. So it starts off with there's three sides. So there's the three main elements in the middle, and the three sides is confidence, caring, and character. If we start with confidence, we're looking at what knowledge and skills do you have? So we start with knowing your dog who he is and what his needs are. We look at self-awareness. How do I react in situations when my dog starts chasing or hunting or barking or digging or all of these behaviors that come up from hunting? How do I feel about that and how do I react with it? And for me, it was quite a light bulb moment when I realized that our dogs and ourselves have a completely different reaction when they are hunting. When I'm in the forest with my dogs and a deer suddenly appears and a deer takes flight, my dog's instinct goes hell yeah and goes straight towards it. My human instinct, I'm not a predator, I'm a prey. So my human instinct is to freeze or to flee. It's not to chase. So it's a completely opposite reaction that we have to our dogs. And I believe it's this that triggers us. It triggers us to feel even worse about it because it's not something that comes naturally to us. It's not something that makes us feel good. It actually makes us feel bad what they're doing because we want to do quite the opposite. We want to run the other way or freeze. And so I think, knowing ourselves and knowing that there is this huge difference emotionally in us is a key in understanding how we can start to keep ourselves more centered and grounded in the moment. So partnership and cooperation we need to have a look at. How good is it in what situations? Our communication skills. Do I know my dog's body language signals? And we're going to go into this a little bit further. And how do I react under stress? So as I said, in stressful situations, what do I normally do? Do I want to flee? Do I freeze? Do I start yelling at my dog? What do I actually do in those circumstances? So the confidence bit is a lot about self-reflection as well, and looking at how I'm affected by my dog's behavior. The caring part involves empathy, which goes back again, having a full understanding of who your dog is as an individual and as a predator, and understanding that they need their needs met on a physical, mental, and emotional level. If we look at it from a place of discovery and curiosity about their amazing abilities, rather than looking at them as negative behaviors. and being present in all our interactions. This is a huge one. And then forgiveness when things don't go right, because they won't. Nobody's perfect, and things won't always go right. And then lastly, it's a bit of character. So being honest, know your limits, know your capabilities. If it's too much for you, you shouldn't be in those circumstances. Consistent, be consistent with your habits and your routines and setting boundaries. This is how your dog learns. For me, there's no better way to set boundaries than through consistent habits that your dog knows. This habit is always in place. This is always what we do. There's no or ah. For me, that is a boundary. Being reliable, so we can be we can be trustworthy, authentic, and intentional. All right. When we lack in confidence, so these are the 3 pillars. If we lack in confidence, we tend to micromanage our dog. And when we're micromanaging our dog, they're on the lead all the time. We're pulling them away from every smell. We're pulling them away when they see or smell or hear something. We quickly get out of there, get out of there, get out of there. We are totally disempowering our dogs and getting them really frustrated. So if we lack in confidence, we micromanage our dogs and we're disempowering them, and they're getting really frustrated. When we lack in caring, so the whole side of being empathetic and understanding of who they are and meeting their needs, we start to distance ourselves from our dog. Our dog is just a dog, and they need to start listening to us. That kind of thing. If we're lacking in the caring, we forget why we really have our dogs. Why did we bring our dogs into our lives in the first place? For that connection, for that fun together, for that having that beautiful understanding with another being. And when we lack in character, we don't show up for our dogs fully. So we don't make good choices, and therefore they take the choices into their own hands and start making their own choices, which make them feel safe and feel good, which generally are not the same ones as we like. Okay, so what we want to look at in this whole partnership and trust triangle, we want less of expectations. What we expect and what our dog does is two very different things. So instead of expectations, we want to look at unconditional acceptance. Instead of controlling our dogs, we want to come from a place of supporting our dogs. Instead of dictating to them, we want to nurture cooperation. Instead of coercing them, we want to give them choice and guidance. Instead of knowing I'm right, let's get into being curious about what's going on for our dog. Instead of criticism and labeling our dogs, let's seek to understand them. Instead of lack of clarity, obviously we get clarity on our why. We learn to communicate better. We put in habits and rituals that give them those boundaries, and we meet their needs. This is a trusting partnership lifestyle. It's not just when we're training our dogs. It's not just when we're engaging with them on walks and activities. It's in all of the interactions that we have with our dogs on a daily basis. So, what sports and activities? What are some of the activities that we can do with our dogs to build trust and confidence and connection and give them safe outlets? So the obvious one is hunting. All right. So you could do sport hunting with your dogs. You could do things like tracking with your dogs. So tracking would be any kind of tracking a certain scent, tracking for animals, tracking for lots of different things. Anything you can think of. It's basically following a trail on the ground and tracking it to the source. All right. And then you've got trailing. Trailing is more of, it goes over different terrains, and it's more, the most popular one at the moment is man trailing. So it's trailing. You go behind your dog does the searching, and you look for a specific person, for instance, in the man trailing. Okay. So these are all sports that you could do with your dog on a professional or a sport basis. And I've got a beautiful video here. I'm just going to push pause of a dear friend, Roz Swallow, who most of you know here. And this is a short video of her and her dogs, basically just on a walk. But Roz does sport hunting with her dogs. And so she's trained them to a beautiful standard where they can actually, they're flushing dogs, they're Wieslers. So they flush fowl, they flush birds from the undergrowth. And here is a beautiful little video clip of that. And what I really want you to look at in the background is there's a jogger that comes past, there's a car, there's a road right there. And to me, this is testament of Roz's trust and confidence in her dogs, because she knows that her dogs are so focused on their job and so focused on waiting for her signal that, you know, even with all these distractions, they can still do a beautiful job together. So this is them. So it looks like she's going to go straight for the jogger, but the birds are in the grass right in front of them. Here's her beautiful point. Look at the concentration.
Good. Nice. Good cows.
Okay, so you saw that. I think I love watching dogs really doing their thing. And you see, you know, they're not chase dogs. Okay. Now, when she first came to, when I first met Roz, when we met in the Dancing Hearts Academy, I mean, her dogs were chasing, they were chasing deer and all sorts of things, but they're actually flushing dogs. They're pointers. So they point to the hunter where they are and they flush the fowl. And you might have heard the long whistle. That was when the bird actually took flight. All right. And if it was a true hunting scenario, when the birds take flight, obviously that's when the hunter would shoot the bird. So I think it's fascinating. I think it's marvelous to watch. And what better way to really honor your dog by, if you have a breed like that, to be able to give them a job that they're really bred for in a way that is totally done with trust, partnership, and cooperation. But there are other sports, of course. There's things like search and rescue, which is really big where I live. There's field trials. So it's basically dummy hunting. So there's no real gunshot, no real animals. They use dummies, which is that thing that the dog has in his mouth. This is one of them here. So it's a canvas bag filled with sand. And sometimes they wrap them with pheasant feathers or fur or whatever, and it sometimes has the scent of an animal, but other times it's just the plain canvas dummy. And the dogs learned to retrieve this in the field. They learn to sniff it out, retrieve it, and bring it to their person. And that's through field trials. And then there's also pet tracking, which is becoming quite popular now, where you teach your dog to find lost and found pets, for instance. So cats that are missing or dogs that are gone missing or whatever, you can now teach your dog to track and find missing pets or missing animals. And other ones is things like scent detection, medical detection, and conservation, which is becoming a big one. And I'm fascinated by the conservation ones as well. If you don't mind, I'm just going to stop sharing, and I'd love to share this website with you that I found. It's a website on, can you see my screen? Yeah. It's a website on working dogs in conservation. So they have all sorts of things where they train dogs to, for like, for instance, in Africa, where they've got the crime, the anti-poaching. So they're tracking poachers, obviously, but they're also tracking the animals so that they can find them and keep count of them. Stopping invasive species. So they learn to, like, for instance, in this picture, this dog is a certain member of snail, that he's a certain species of snail that he has to find and see how prolific it is in that specific area, for instance. Or there they have monitoring elusive species so that they don't really find them very often. They teach them to find their scat, also find their feces, for instance, and track and trace them in the wild. There's projects here in Austria at the moment, or other European countries, to track wolves. So to find the wolves where we are, because we know that they're moving into our area. And so, in fact, I have a friend who's teaching her dog is in training to track wolves, for instance. So he can track wolf scat at the moment. So it's really fascinating. I think it's an amazing thing, and I think it's got a huge future. Our dogs have really so many talents that we can help them with, and they're using their natural abilities to do so. So okay, so those are some of them, and then there's obviously for other not just the hunting breeds, there's the herding, there's lure coursing for the sighthounds who love to chase, and there's something like tribal, for instance, which is a sport, a fun sport that you can do, which has many of the elements of herding. So if you don't have sheep and you don't want to do sport herding as it is, tribal is a fun and fantastic activity to do with that. Lure coursing, obviously, this is a sport. If it's done carefully and kindly, I think it's a great alternative for sighthounds, but it can be quite a dangerous one if you're doing it on a hobby basis, if you don't know what you're doing. And then for those of you who aren't into sport or doing anything on a professional or certainly on a competitive level, there's a lot of things that you can do with your dogs on a day-to-day basis that also engages their seeking system and their hunting elements. And these are things like treat searches, hide and seek, playing catch with your dog and chase, playing frisbee and ball, swimming with your dog, playing tug with your dog. There's just so many activities that we can do. And then recreational enrichment, again, will allow them to have access to doing all the things that they love, which is chewing like on meaty bones and ripping and shredding boxes and paper and digging and all those things that we sometimes think are problem behaviors. Give them an outlet to do that. Give them an outlet to enjoy these behaviors because they are so rewarding for our dogs. So I'm going to talk a little bit now about hobby hunting. I call it hobby hunting because this is the things that I do with my dogs, because I don't do it on a sport basis and I don't do it on a hobby, I don't do it on a professional basis, but I certainly like to do hunting activities with my dogs on a hobby basis, as I call it. So I'm going to start off with the mouse hunt. Mouse hunt is my absolutely all-time favorite game. And basically, if for those of you who are interested, I do have a video which breaks it down, how to train it, and a PDF that will tell you step by step how to train the mouse. But it really isn't that difficult. I mean, our dogs know what to do. So I'm just going to give you the first easy steps, which is basically you need a tin or a glass jar. You need a little mouse. This is a little IKEA mouse, but you can use any soft toy. It doesn't have to be a mouse, but I like my little IKEA mice. And I use chamomile tea. So this is a tea bag with chamomile tea in it. You can see it's got little chamomile flowers in it. You can see it in the light. And this is what I scent the mouse with. So I put in the tin, I put the tea bag, and I put the mouse in, and I close it up. And in 24 hours, the scent particles will then be on my mouse, and my mouse will smell like chamomile tea. And I start off by playing with this mouse with my dogs, and we play games. I throw it for them. They catch it, they chew it. We play a little bit of tug with it. We do fun things with it. And while they're doing that, they're getting the scent of the chamomile tea puffed up into their nose again and again and again. So they're forming a natural association with the smell, and it's fun because I'm interacting with them and we're having fun with this mouse. It becomes a fun interaction with the mouse and that scent. And soon after that, you can start hiding the mouse. So first you might throw it for them, then you might throw it behind a door or throw it behind the couch or throw it just around the corner, and they bring it back to you. And you reward them. You can use treats. You can use lots of love and affection and have fun with it. And then it soon becomes something that they love to do, is to find this mouse. And I have a video at the end here that I'll show you all the things that I do with the mouse. But I think I've got about 10 mice now. But my mouse go everywhere with us. It's something that my dogs know, they know well, and I've started many different scents. So we don't just do chamomile tea scented mice anymore. I use essential oils and I scent them with all sorts of things, from frankincense to lavender to whatever their favorite scents are. I use those as well. And why it's so why we scent it is because with a scent like chamomile tea, for instance, if I'm out in a forest and I hide this mouse in the forest, it's going to be because it's a huge environment. So unless a dog is really, really well trained, to find a specific scent, like the scent of this toy, for instance, it can be quite difficult because it's a huge environment. But if I have something like a chamomile tea, it stands out in the environment because nature hasn't got chamomile tea growing around every corner. So the dogs will easily be able to pick up the scent of this mouse and find it pretty quickly, because we don't want our dogs to be frustrated by this. We want this to be a fun, quick find for them. All right. So that's my scented mouse. It's got to do with scent identification. They have to identify which scent they need to find, and then you can play it anywhere. All right. So that's my favorite game. My other favorite game to play on walks is Lost and Found, where you drop your keys or your glove or something, your scarf or whatever. In winter, I do that on a regular basis without intentionally doing it. I lose my gloves or my scarf or something. And my dogs have now learned to go back and search. So they're searching for my scent in that case. They're searching for something that smells like me. And they can see it once they get closer to the scent. They can see what object it is. They pick it up and they bring it to me. So this is another fun hobby hunting game that I play. And then the cheese tree, we also love to play, where I take pieces of soft cheese like a cheddar or a Gouda, and I break it up into little pieces and I hide it in the bark of trees. So it's not scenting on the ground. This is for dogs who like to scent a little bit further up, sort of mid-air scenting. Then they have to find the correct tree and then find it in the bark. And they really have to sometimes scratch with their nails to get at it, chew in the bark to get it, because I hide it really, really inside the bark for them. And they love to find that as well. So cheese tree is another one of our favorite hobby hunting games. Then there's a watch with me, watching together. And this is something I've done more and more over the last couple of years, because I've realized the value of not pulling your dog away from a situation, but rather putting distance between yourself and whatever's triggering them and watching together, talking to them about it, being calm in their presence about it, teaching your dog to be calmly just watch, taking in the information, absorb it, process it, and love it. They are enjoying. If they can't do the full hunting sequence, this is part of the sequence that they really, really love. Okay. It's the eye contact. They are orienting to it. They're watching it. They're watching the movement. It's really, really rewarding for them. And like I said, instead of just saying, oh my gosh, there's sheep, there's goats, whatever, just pull your dogs away, get out of there as quickly as possible. Rather put distance between it, yourself and the trigger, until you can feel your dog is calm, and then sit there and watch. So things like watching wildlife or stock animals from a safe distance, and then talking to them and giving them information about it. Because one of the things I've realized with most dogs is when they are in that hunting sequence, let's say they're locked onto a trigger. If very often what happens is if you talk to them or make a sudden movement or try to move them out of the direction in that moment, that's exactly what's triggering them to go forward and to do the chase. So learning to just be quiet and calm and talk to your dogs while they're watching, while they're in that sequence. Talk to them calmly and even touch them gently, because very often touch can trigger a dog to chase. So getting them used to really just being able to be touched, to be calmly spoken to in those circumstances is really, really helpful for you for when you're in the real life position. And then go and find places to look at animals. Go to zoos or petting zoos, animal parks, nature parks. Let your dog have their fill. Let them enjoy all the sense of all those animals in a safe environment. Now, I'm not talking about if you take your dog there and he starts barking and going crazy, then you're in the wrong place. Then it's too much for your dog. But if your dog if you can have distance and just allow them to sniff and gain all the sense, it's hugely rewarding for them. So don't rush them. Give them time and space. Put distance between it and let them just process and enjoy it. So what are the skills you need to learn along with this? My top skills are you need to learn your dog's body language. So you need to learn what are the signals that they're going to give you for letting you know that they've picked up a scent in the forest or that they're onto something, because it's going to be that choice point, as you'll see further down, which is so important. So communicating with them, as I said, gently talking to them and touching them when they are highly aroused like that is very important. Catching that choice point. So this for me has been my absolute key. I have learned when my dogs are off lead, for instance, and they are now 80 to 90% off lead in the forests, I have to make sure that I am fully present and aware and watching them, their communication, because there will always be a choice point. There will be a choice point where my dogs will pause before they do anything. And if I can calmly communicate with them in that moment and say, please come away, come here, come back to me, that is when I've got an influence. Anything after that, I don't have an influence anymore. They're gone. There's no use trying to call them back unless you have worked solidly on your recall 100% of the time for a whistle recall. And I don't even do that anymore because I find it's too time intensive to train my dog to a rock steady recall. I rather look for the choice point. I look for the choice point when I can still influence them, because once they've taken chase, I don't have a solution. Thankfully, when my dogs do take chase now, they will go a maximum of 100 meters. I call them and they will come back to me, but the actual stopping them in mid chase and turning around, I'm afraid not. So also learning to handle a long leash, learning to communicate with your dog on a long leash. And you will see in the video, I have 2 short videos of where I do exercises on the long leash, which is one is the slow stop and the other one is stroking the leash and communicating with my dog to get him to turn around and come away with me calmly and quietly. Recall, as I say, for me is an invitation. It's not a command. I invite my dogs to come away with me, and I do it at the correct choice point. Then games that we do is things like about turn. It's just a game that I invented that as we're walking along, I'll suddenly say to the dogs, about turn. And they know what that means. It means turn around, rush towards me, and then I throw a treat in the opposite direction. So we're walking along, they've gone ahead of me. I say, about turn. And as I say that, they hear me, they come rushing towards me. I turn around and I throw a treat in the opposite direction. And this is just a fun game that we've developed. And it's really, really helpful when I can see something up ahead that I don't want them to go any further. So I just play that game with them. We've now changed direction and I've got them going in another direction with me. This is when we're off leash, obviously. So they're ahead of me, they turn around and they come with me the other way. This way is another one, just, when you're suddenly changing direction, you just say this way, and they know that you are changing your direction and they need to change it with you. So that's something we do regularly on walks as well. And then leash up for 10 is another fun game that I invented, which is basically when very often what happens is, let's say your dogs are off leash and suddenly you realize that there's wildlife around or there's something that they can chase or joggers or whatever, and you quickly put them on leash. And in that moment, the dog suddenly becomes hyper vigilant because they know, oh, mom's putting us on leash. There must be something around here to chase. But if we do it on a regular basis where you play this game, leash up for 10. So as I'm walking, dogs are off leash doing their own thing. I might say, leash up for 10. And they come rushing back to me. We put the leash on. We walk 10 steps together. I count to 10. They get a great treat. They get lots of love from me and attention, and off they go again. So it's just a fun game as well, just so that the leashing up doesn't always mean be hyper vigilant. There's something going on. Grounded walking is what I also like to use. I use a tree analogy to really ground myself. You put my weight through my heels, that I really feel grounded and centered, because that's when your dog needs it most, is for you to be calm, to be centered, to be able to breathe in those situations and really ground yourself. That's what your dog needs for you, for him or her to also stay grounded and centered. I see there's a chat. You can bring the sense to your dog. If the zoo, yeah, great idea, Petra. So if you can't go to the, let's say your dog can't deal with, going to those situations, bring the sense home. So go to the zoo in the park and get some dirty hay or whatever it is, some smelly hay from their beds, from their stables, and bring it home. What a brilliant idea. Thanks, Petra. Thanks for that. All right, so what are the warning signals? Okay, girls, I'm going to throw this out to you because I'm getting tired of talking. What can you see in my two dogs here? Unmute yourselves and tell me what you can see. What signals can you see in my dogs?
Tail's up.
Sorry, say again. Petra,
Tail is up.
Yes, Charlie's tail is up. What else?
Heads are up too.
Heads are up, yeah, heads are up, and they're both looking directly with quite a bit of intent in the same direction.
Eyes in the direction, so all the body in the direction of something. The weight is on the front part.
Yes.
The nose is directly in the air scenting whatever they are seeing. And actually, I think that if you would touch Charlie in that moment, because he's like a spring, he would just, just jump.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, well done. Spot on. Those were all the things. The weight was forward. The whole body was orientated towards there. The head was, the nose was up, the tail's up, the body tension is there. You can see it all. And
if you see Layla,
yes,
her back legs are already in crouch position to jump.
Yes, yes. So I don't know if you remember right at the beginning of this presentation, I won't go back now, but there's a photo of them. I took 2 photos in succession. I was in this forest. It was early winter. This was a couple of weeks ago. It was early autumn, and the colors were just incredible. And they were off leash and they were sniffing, and I wanted to take a picture. And as I took the first picture, Charlie was ahead of me, but you'll see in the first picture, Charlie was orienting. Layla hadn't clicked yet. By the time I took the second picture, which is a couple of seconds later, here you have it. So where do you think the deer was? Right up there. And as I took the photo, obviously I could see through my camera what I was looking at, all of these signals. And that was my choice point. And I said, this way, dogs. And I turned around and I went, you can't really see, but there's a path down here. And I said, this way, dogs. And I moved in that direction, and they came with me. They actually came with me right the way, and no problems. But there is a perfect example of, had I not understood their body language, had I not caught that choice point, both dogs would have been off in a flash. Okay, so that's how important it is to be present on your walks, to know your dog's body language, to read their signals. So, setting up for success. Know when it's too hard for your dog. And I had many, many times when it was too hard for Charlie, when I couldn't take him into the forest, when I couldn't let him off leash. There was many, many times that was the case. All right. And it's being able, if we go back to the trust triangle, we remember knowing your limits, knowing your dog's limits, and not pushing past that. Because if we do that, we're setting us both up for failure. We're setting your dog up for failure. We're setting you up for failure, and we're setting up both of you for having a bad experience together, or an unwanted experience, should we say, right? Adolescence is another time which is really, really difficult. In an adolescent dog, they are primed with prey drive. They are primed with the seeking system to activate at the smallest thing, because that's what, as a teenage dog, they need to expand their territory. They need to go and look for mates. They need to find things. They need to go out there and explore the world. So nature has primed an adolescent brain to easily activate their seeking system and their natural prey drive. So it's a really difficult time for your dog, and you should not be testing your dog at this time. Stay out of the forests, keep them on a long line, and do some other activities that will give them the same kind of satisfaction. Just keep them out of harm's way. It's not worth the battle. It's not worth the battle. And then stress levels. Obviously, we know if you are feeling stressed, or your dog has been having trigger stacking the last couple of days or weeks, have had stress, they've been ill, they've had pain, whatever it is that's causing them stress, or you just don't do it. Just stay away from where you know that there is the chance that they could easily want to chase something. And also season of the year. For instance, I know in spring and autumn, it's really difficult for the dogs, because the smells are all over. The wildlife is moving around a lot more, getting ready for, in spring, for instance, there's young foals and fawns being born. And I will keep my dogs on leash, because I don't want to take a chance that some of them might hurt a small baby deer or something like that. So be mindful, set up for success, choose your walks carefully, and know when it's just time to say, you know what, this is not working, and turn around and go home, because it's not worth the fight. What happens when things go wrong? What happens when you aren't fully present? What happens when you didn't catch that choice point? What happens when your dog just decided today was the day, this is too hard for me, and he pulled the leash out of your hands and took off? What happens? Okay, what happens when it all goes wrong? This is when we call repairing ruptures. All right, and repairing rupture should never be looked at negatively. It should be looked at, actually, it's leading me to further trust and connection with my dog. So we all know, we all screw up in life, all of us, and it's how we make up after that mess up that really counts. So it's take time to cool off, check in with your thoughts. Don't yell at your dog. Don't yell. It's not going to bring anything, and it's not going to help the situation. Accept that you're both perfectly imperfect. You're learning and growing together. Say sorry and I love you. I didn't mean to. I know this is really hard for you. I know that this, and I wasn't present for you. I'm sorry. I love you. Take a deeper look at what might be going on underneath. Is this underlying stress that you haven't been aware of before, perhaps, that is now showing in these behaviors? Find the joy in the things you love doing together. Like you'll see in the video following here, there's plenty of things you can do with your dog that don't necessarily involve going out there and going, walking in the forest where it's really difficult for them, for instance. Be grateful for the things that you love about your dog. Okay, so repairing ruptures. So that's all. I'm going to do questions now for quickly, and then it's about 15 minutes, this video. I've put together all the little things that I do and that I've been speaking about into a video, so that you can watch all these little exercises. But before we go there, I'd love to know if you have any questions for me.
I do.
Hi, Cecile.
Just wondering what you would say about, my situation, walking 4 at the same time. I don't know, anything.
Yeah, it's hard, because it's what you must remember is pack mentality. Dogs were bred to hunt in packs. And I know with just 2 dogs, it's like that if one dog is triggered, the next dog will be triggered straight away. So it is difficult when you have more than one dogs. More than one dogs. It is difficult. And I would really suggest that if it's like seasonal again, if it's like bunny time of the year, so it's like spring when all the bunnies and the moles and the mice are all coming up from the winter fields, that kind of thing, don't push it. Take 1 or 2 dogs if you can, or keep them on leash or whatever, because it's really, really hard to get 4 or 5 dogs if one of them takes off, it's so difficult. I don't know, Petra or anybody else, do you have any wise words here? But I think it's really difficult when you have a pack of dogs.
I agree with you. one shows a little bit interest, and
Yeah.
they are communicating so fast between themselves. You cannot catch it, even if you are very good. I have 20 plus experience, and I cannot catch it while they are talking between themselves. Seriously, they are so fast. Even they are synchronized.
Yeah.
They are so fast that they are moving like they would be synchronized swimmers, actually. So yeah, just like you said, don't push it if you're if you're in a situation like that. Find safe places. I know that with my dogs, I went, okay, one was not really a big hunter, or she would run like 50 meters and then she would be like, yeah, okay. But the other one could run 1.5 kilometers one day. He did. Yeah, I measured it actually because I had to have my binoculars to still see him when he was going. But when she didn't run, if she said, "Oh, there's deer," he was already gone. I mean, this is So
like you said, that
went
micro communication that's happening between them is
you cannot be so fast.
No, it's so fast. It's so fast.
And then we started going boring places. I mean, they were boring for all of us, but there they could move without me being all like, where's deer, where's rabbit, where's fox, where's, because this takes out of you, but it turns walks into not pleasant, really.
Yeah.
Even if your dogs are enjoying and you're not, this is not like you described before, the trust triangle. It ruins it. So boring places, I would say.
Yeah, boring places, or like I say, do those activities in safe environments. So allow them to do the sniffing or the mouse hunting or to do whatever, but doing it in a safer environment. So they're still getting their excitement, their entertainment, but in it's a safe environment.
Would you do that with several dogs at the same time, mouse hunting and things like that?
I do. Well, I do it with two. I do it with my two dogs. I do. Sometimes I only have one mouse, and then they the first one to find it, or sometimes I will spread 2 or 3 or 4 mice, and then send them off, and then they have to go back and forth. So as long as you don't have resource guarding in your pack, if you don't have resource guarding, then it should be fine.
So far, no.
Yeah. Then it should be fine.
Okay, thank you.
And if they can do activities together, this is really fun for them.
They
can all look for one mouse, or this is really fun. And treat search together, just spreading, as long as there is no resource guarding, as you said. And this is really fun for them, even more stimulating than just one by one.
Yeah, so you'll see clips of all of this, all the different activities that I do with my dogs. There's 2 videos right at the, I just put some music over and some captions, but right at the end, there's 2 video clips where I've left the sound off, my voice on, because I wanted you to just see how I talk to my dogs when they're actually watching, when we're doing that watching sort of activity. So you'll see me just talking to them gently. I had 2 dogs on the leash and my phone, so it was a bit difficult. I would normally stand a little bit closer to them, so I would shorten the leash and come a bit closer to them, but I couldn't because one dog was here, and I was trying to film, so it was a bit difficult. But you'll see kind of how I allow them to watch, and we do it together, so it's fun. Okay. Any other questions before I show the video? Was that informative? Did you learn something? Was it fun? Yes. Cool.
Really nice presentation. I really liked it.
Great.
It's not even if you know most of this stuff, is sometimes is good to repeat, to hear it from somebody else, and because you include some other stuff in it than I would. And it's like, this also goes into, this is good. So it was I really liked it.
Good. Thanks, Petra. Thank you. Okay, so let me find the video quickly. Okay, can you see my screen? Yes, good. This video was directly after when you'd seen him up on the ridge there, eyeing the deer. It was down in the forest afterwards. In this video, I put cheese, like smeared cheese into the rock faces and in between the rock crevices. So that was one of the mouse games. Mouse was in that suitcase the time before, the round before. That's why it's like it's got to be in there somewhere. this is just to give you some ideas. I mean, you can literally use anything that you have, just to keep it fun, to keep it different, to keep it exciting for the dog. This is what we do quite a bit, is just finding a quiet place and just sitting together and watching. Because very often we're very busy on walks, and it's nice to be able to just use a lot of just being with your dog on a walk, so that they get used to that calmness on a walk as well. These are some of the leash skills that I like to practice. That sort of slow stop and calling my dog back to me and sitting around. But like, I'm just going to. So for instance, there you can see Charlie's locked onto, I think there was a cow across here, I can't remember. But he's locked onto something. And this is where communicating gently through the leash is so important. Again, to give your dog that gentle information that you're there without just pulling them away or calling them away, which can trigger them, is slowly learning this communication on the leash, through the leash, the right point to call him away. Stroking the leash there to get his attention and inviting him to come away. Like you said, so when you've got two dogs, it's like you can find it first, you can find it first. You seem to have a little, I want it, I want it. Oh, here we go. So this is where you won't have any sound now. You will hear, these are fairly recently that this happened. And it's just where I happened to be walking. There was, I knew there were deer in the forest because I've already seen them. So I put my dogs on leash and we just did a watch me. Okay. You can see by Layla's body language again there, like Petra said, her back legs are ready to spring. Everything in her is perfectly locked on. But she was able to, when I gently called her, Charlie did a nice stress shake off there. It's like, whoa, this is hard. But she's able to listen to me.
Good.
I don't know if you can hear me.
Chickens. No.
So this was just also a walk, and I just noticed that there were some chickens out of their coop, and they were walking around outside of the fence, and obviously my dogs saw them.
Lauern. Lauern. Oh, one is running.
So just putting my distance between me and them,
Walk a little
going
bit
forward
closer.
slowly when I know Charlie's calm enough. There you can see him start to creep and start to stalk.
Stop.
And I'll just ask him for a gentle stop.
Good. Excellent. Good boy. Good boy. Good, Charlie. Nice.
It's Layla whining. She wants to go and eat them.
Good. Very good, Charlie. Nice. Good girl, Lily. Nice. Nice. Good boy. And walk on. Good.
She's going into stalk again.
Nice. Stop. Stop.
Now he's pretending that he just wants to pee, but he really just wants to get closer to the chickens. And then at that stage, he's now ready. They're both ready to just walk on with me. They've had their fill.
Found a nice little place to play.
And this is
Lily's waiting for her game already. So what I'm going to do is find a decent stick that they can, a safe stick that they can find. Here's a nice smooth one. Smooth round stick, not too big. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just slip it. I can't turn this backwards. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to slip it inside my jacket for a moment. And just keep it there under my arm inside my jacket for a while so that it picks up my scent for a few minutes, and we'll see you back later. We're just going to have a sniffle around and a play in the forest, and then I'll show you what's next. So what I'm going to do now, the dogs are distracted, I'm going to pull out my stick. This was under my arm, this stick, and I'm just going to drop it here on the floor, and I'm going to continue walking. And just continue walking a little bit. Dogs haven't noticed anything. And I call them to me. Charlie, Layla, come here. Charlie, come here. Come here. Here. You don't know what you're looking for. Come here. Smell. Search. Layla's already off, she's gone. There goes Charlie. So they don't quite know what they're searching for now. Because we sometimes use the scented mouse, we sometimes use all sorts of things, but this time it's just been the stick that had my scent on it. And they are just doing a free search. Search. Go search. Give them a bit of direction. This way, guys. This way, dogs. Yeah? Search.
Charlie's passed that stick 3 times already.
Let's see.
Now watch Layla, you see she's on a
I
track. Watch how
seem
she
to be on
tracks
some
here.
kind of
Zigzag,
track there.
zigzag, zigzag.
Yes!
Got it.
Good girl. Well done, Bunny Moo. Good girl. Excellent. Good job, Bunny. Good job. Yes, you got it too, Charlie. Here we go. Drop it. There we go. And that was it. Good fun.
Okay, that was it. So thank you, ladies, for watching that. I hope that was fun for you to watch at least a little bit and see some of the things that we do. And you see, I mean, I can do a lot of that scent work now off leash in the forest, in a forested area. And when they are doing work with me or games with me or whatever, they're completely not, you know, not interested in what's going on in the forest. And if there were deer there, I can tell you that they possibly wouldn't even go after them because they would be rather more engaged with me playing the games that they are familiar to them, that we're cooperating, that we're having fun together. Because we, like I said, they're pack animals. They want to do things together. They don't want to just be off on their own thing, on their own mission all the time. So I hope you enjoyed that. What do you have any other questions, any comments, anything else? Anya, Anna, Sandra, Anya.
That was a beautiful presentation. Thank you so much. And lovely to see your doggies doing all the things with you. That's wonderful to see.
Thank you.
Really enjoyed it.
Yeah, great.
Thank
Yeah, we
you.
have lots of fun together on our walks. We have good interaction and it is fun, I must say. Thanks. Anya.
Brilliant. Thanks. Sue.
There was a question from Cecile. On walks, how do you spread out the treats without them noticing?
With difficulty. With difficulty. Because they're so keen, they're so keyed into me now. When I stop, they straight away spin around because it's like, is she going to do something now? Is she going to hide something? Is there something to go look for? So they wait for me to stop on my walks and it's like, oh, Layla's always there. I'm there. But so it can be quite difficult. What I'm like, I normally do it like walking and dropping. So I have them in my hand and I just drop as we're walking. Oh, Hannah's coming in. As we're walking, I'm sort of dropping them out my pocket. And then it's easier to send them back to that area and say, come, let's go and look in this area. Because if you stop and start bringing them out and you start dropping one, they'll be on you like, they'll be on you very quickly. Yeah, yeah. Or sometimes we do it as a sort of a stay exercise. So I put them all in a down and I ask them to stay and wait and hold. And then I go off and I sprinkle a few and then I come back and then I say, okay, search. So sometimes we do it like that with a sort of a bit of a trained cue that they have to wait.
Or what you can also do is put a little bit, I don't know, 2-3 treats, or if you have more dogs, more treats, but on one side.
Mm-hmm.
And while they are searching, you can go to the other side and spread them there. This is what I do.
Yes, 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 that's a good idea. Good idea. Yeah, you have to be creative because they do seem to. Yeah, there's one question that nobody's asked, but I'm going to answer it because I'm sure it's going to come up for people, is because I get this a lot from our clients. They say, they're scared of doing street searches on walks because they feel that their dogs are going to start picking up stuff from the ground and start eating it and doing whatever. And for me, that has not been at all a problem. You know, my dogs know when I say search, when I say, you know, they know that there's food on the ground, they're going to go and look for it. They're using their noses anyway. Dogs are scavengers, they do scavenge. But if you have a particular problem in your area with poison or whatever, then I would do these kind of games in a specific set area only. So you don't play them on your normal walks, but you play them on certain walks where you know that are safe, for instance, if that's the way you feel about it. But it certainly doesn't encourage any further scavenging behavior. For me, it's helping them to enjoy those activities. Any other comments on that? Or do you have any concerns about that?
Actually, the research shows that it's the opposite.
Yeah.
So yeah, because it's a thing we do together, so
Exactly.
they don't go and search for the food. And I have a question about the way you use the mouse.
Yes.
Do you think that they're actually following your scent as well with the mouse?
Yes.
Because I mean, I don't play with the mouse, but I play with toys, others. And Flo always goes the way I came from the bush, for example.
Yes.
Not the other way around, and she always goes just straight to that thing.
Yes.
So I'm like, it doesn't make any sense to put any other scent on.
Yes. So if you were to do proper, because remember I said I do hobby scent work, so I don't do it as a sport and I don't do it professionally. If you were to do this as a proper sport, it would mean you wouldn't be allowed to contaminate the mouse. That means it would stay in here and you would take it out with gloves, or you would take it out with a pincette or something, and you would actually hide it without touching you. So these mice wouldn't actually have your scent on if you were to do it in a proper methodical way, a sport way of doing it. You're very careful about contaminating your smell on here. But because because I do it as a hobby, yes, my scent is on here just as much as theirs, because in that last exercise where you saw, I sent them to find a stick. They didn't know what they were going to find. I just said search. It could have been the mouse. It could have been something that smelled like me. They didn't know what. It's the same with the scarf. When I dropped my headscarf, I used to have two separate commands. I used to have a find it and a search. And a find it was always for the mouse, and a search was for searching for something with my scent. That's how I originally trained it, as it were. Now I can interchange those words. And I realize it actually does got nothing to do with it. They have a scent picture. And obviously over the years or over the months of learning that this mouse, it's the scent of the mouse, it's the scent of the tea, and it's the scent of me, and probably the scent of the tin as well. It's got a whole scent picture. And they're so clever, they just pick up one of the scents that are in here. So if they can't smell the tin or the mouse or the chamomile tea, they probably think, okay, well, it's not that, it's probably something that smells like mum. So now let's look for something that smells like mum.
Yeah, okay.
That's how I reckon that they're doing it, because yes, there definitely is a scent of me on there as well. But they are so good. They know exactly. I did one of the ladies that I walk quite regularly with on our walk in the morning. She's kind of always there with her dogs. And the one day she was quite distraught because she'd lost her cell phone. And she said to me, I've lost my cell phone. I must have bent down to pick up a poo or something. I can't find my cell phone. And I said to her, well, I don't know that my dogs can do this, but let's try. Let's go back and backtrack. I said, have you got anything that smells like you? And she said, well, nothing. She had her keys on her. So I said, give me your keys. And I said, rub them in your hand and let her smell the keys. Now, I'm asking my dogs a huge ask here, because it doesn't smell like me. It's keys. So they're getting the scent of keys. And I'm asking them to find a cell phone. I mean, the picture is completely different from what I'm asking them to do. And I had no expectations. And I just said, can you tell me more or less the area where you think you were, bending over to pick up a poo. And she said, yeah, I think it was somewhere here. So we all started searching, and Layla kept coming back to me, and I kept giving her the keys, and I kept saying search. And Charlie just picked up a stick and said, to hell with this, and buggered off and went down to the river. Did he say, I don't know what you're asking me to do here. And Layla was searching, but you could see she kept coming back to me for more information. And eventually she started, remember, like I showed you in that last video, she caught a scent and she was doing a zigzag. And she did that, and I watched her body language, and I saw her zigzagging, and then she started circling and zigzagging. You could see she was confused, but she was onto something. So I walked in that area, and true's Bob, I found this woman's cell phone. So how did she know? To me, that is how intelligent their scenting abilities are. That something in that picture that I showed her, that scent picture as it's called, something that I presented to her must have had a similar, it must have been, her name is Gabby. It must have been Gabby's scent on there that she said, okay, well, I can't smell any of these others, but I can smell this one particular scent. So that's what I must be looking for. It's extraordinary when you think of it. And she's not a trained scent dog. I mean, we've just done it for fun.
She is. I mean, that's how she sees the world.
Yeah.
That's her way. So yeah, because Flo and I, we were doing a lot of scent work, but there is different because they just have to point where the scent is, and they're not allowed to pick it.
Correct.
So I do have different ways of telling her what to do. So there are different words. But yeah, I mean, I really love the way they walk around, and because every dog has a different method in a way.
Yes.
So it's kind of fun.
Yeah, it is. It's great fun to watch. And you saw, I mean, with my two dogs, Charlie's one he's like he's a spaniel seeker. So he does like 3 times the distance, and runs around in circles, and he just loves the joy of it, Whereas Layla's more a methodical sort of searcher or whatever. But it's great fun to watch them. And one of the reasons I did decide to go the mouse route, I'll put it onto the email as well, how I learned this technique. And the reason I went with this is because I wanted it to be fun. I wanted it to be, because with the scent, as you say, with the scent, what do you call it? When they have to find a specific scent, and then they have to give you a behavior to say, I found it, like a down or a sit or a bark.
Marker.
Sorry?
To mark behavior. To mark a scent, sorry.
Yes, I'm trying to think of the word that, the English word, Anzeige. When they show you a specific behavior to say, we found the scent. I think that's great. And I think it works well for that sport. But for me, I think you would have also seen in my games with the dogs, I swapped the mouse out for a treat, and then I gave them the mouse back again, because for them to have the mouse in their mouth and bounce around with it and with a trophy, what is more fun than anything? Do you know what I mean? And for me, it had to be a fun factor, because I wanted my dogs to do things with me to enjoy it, so that we were doing things together that was really fun for them, not work. Whereas I see sometimes the scent work goes more towards like a working activity as opposed to more fun.
Well, it's up to a person who's doing it, really. Because I mean, when Flo shows me where the scent is, I use the toy as a reward.
Okay, all right.
So she gets her favorite ball and she runs around, and she still gets the same sensation. So
yeah, good.
I don't use treats because she gets overexcited.
Yeah.
So yeah, but that way she's fine.
Perfect. Yes, indeed. Yeah.
And there's another thing I wanted to ask you, because yeah, I mean, we improved our way in walking in the forest. So she doesn't go and hunt. She never wanted to really chase the deer, but she wanted to herd the deer back to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but the thing is, I mean, we can deal if there is only one. But if there is more, or we meet one first and then I turn around and we go back and we go the other way or whatever. And then we meet another one. Then, I mean, it's too much for her. She would not go after the deer, but she would just sit there or just be there, like all over aroused and howl. It's really annoying for me. I don't like her to scream in the forest, you know, and I don't know how to deal with my emotions. I do try to, you know, all the things like ground myself, breathe, but it's still like sometimes it's too much, and then we still have to go out from the forest, and it seems like a big deal. So, do you have any tips?
Yeah, well, as you say, I mean, first of all, just ground yourself, breathe, do all those things, and remember that analogy that I said of being triggered. We triggered by their behavior, but it's only because we would have done something completely opposite. Now we're feeling unsafe, all right? Because like you say, you don't like her screaming in the forest, but she doesn't care. I mean, for her, she's letting you know that there's deer there. So it's just remember that it's her behavior. Don't take it personally. Okay, we need to understand that they are predators, okay, and they're just behaving the way a predator would behave. So the best way to do it, I would do it, is put her on leash and start talking to her. Say, I know this is really hard for you. Come on, let's go this way. I might try to engage her in something, like a mouse thing or whatever. Sometimes I have done that when I've seen deer and my dogs wanted to go. I'll go move back maybe 100 meters to another part of the forest, and I'll put the mouse down there and then, and I'll say search. So straight away, they're still already in hunting mode, but now they can go and search for the mouse and find the mouse. So I give them an alternative to redirect them onto an alternative that they can now still use their abilities. But if she's too aroused and she only wants to, you know, get the deer and she's not interested in searching for anything else, then I would just go as quickly and as calmly and happily as you can in the other direction out of the forest. There's not much you can do then. I don't know. Is anybody else got, Petra, you got an idea?
Yeah, you know that I have a dog that is loud. And what helps him is putting but this you probably know Sue Abalone.
Yes.
Can you explain it? Because I'm in dark and I don't want to turn the light out and my dog is sleeping.
Okay, so there's a couple of different theories about it, but there's these acupressure points, you know, like when we do the EFT tapping, they're on the chest here as well, and it's called the safety hold. So if I stand up, it's a safety hold. If we hold our chest here, and very often that's why people will do this to help them feel safe and calm. So you can put your hand on your dog's chest like this, and then one hand on the back of their neck, sort of where their harness is. Those two, that position there, a hold there and a hold there, is very calming for a dog and very sort of a grounding feeling. So you could try that. You could just gently put your hand there and your hand on top and gently talk to her. But I don't know if Flo is very touch sensitive when she's over aroused.
Yeah, she doesn't want to be touched, but sometimes she does. I don't know. It depends on the day.
But this is not like a stroking or a petting.
Yeah,
calm down. You know, it's just a very gentle hold. Is that how you would do it, Petra?
Yes, either hold. It depends on the level of excitement, but either hold, or you can even do very small circles, very gentle circles, which also calm down. And what my dog started doing, because he was very touch sensitive. The time that I met him, I have actually put a string on him, and he was like a bronco, like a wild horse. Seriously, you could not touch him. He was so sensitive. But when he figured out that this feels good, what he does now, he sees deer and then comes running back to me and turns, like puts his ass to my legs so that I can actually hold him like this, because this calms him down. And you maybe need to show her like 2 or 3 times when she's not in that state, like, well, I want deer, but at home when you are observing something or whatever, that you just, this feels good. And then there you can also try if she likes the circle in this direction, or she just wants you to hold it like this. And then you can use this when, I don't know, you do it 2-3 times. You don't need to practice this like, I don't know, 3 weeks. And then you can use it when she's in the forest and already when she sees the first deer, not only when she's screaming for the second or the third one. But this can help enormously some dogs.
Mm. And that's, like I
Especially the
said, if I
screamers.
didn't have my cell phone there in the last 2, I probably, and if I only had one dog with me, that's exactly what I would do. I would shorten the leash, come up very quietly, walk up the leash to them, kneel down next to them, talk to them, and just do that hold.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you. It sounds great. I'll try and let you know how it goes.
Good. I think there's some comments here. I'm not sure. I know Cecile had to leave. Anna, Anna, yes. I know you just came on, Anna. Do you want to unmute and say hi? Abilities put us to awe. Incredible nose. Iris has an incredible nose too, and she loves these kind of scent games. She always finds what's in the game, even the large green areas. Yeah, it's brilliant. Cecile says, sorry, she had to go. Great. And Anya, such a good point about us feeling unsafe because we're not predators. Yeah. Yeah. We're feeling exactly the opposite to what our dogs are feeling. I can't, still at work. Oh, shame, Mulch. Okay, get it. All right, no worries. But thank you for hopping on, Anya. Anna, but we're about to finish now anyway. So you will get the recording and you can watch the whole thing. And yeah, Sandra, any other comments or questions from you? You've been quiet.
No, I've just been taking it all in. It's been really useful.
Good.
Really
good.
useful. Yeah, lots of ideas to do things.
Excellent.
Monty doesn't chase at all. Nigella does.
Mm-hmm.
And Nigella will chase and Monty will follow her, and then he'll stop and look at me as if to say,
what was that for?
what's all that about? But yeah, really useful, Sue. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Sandra. All right, lovely ladies. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for coming on with me. I've really enjoyed it. And as I say, there will be the recording for anybody who wants to watch. And yes, enjoy your evening. Have a lovely one. And we'll speak to you and see you in the group again soon.
Bye. Thank you, Sue.
Bye-bye. Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Bye.